up, everybody? Mm. It is a beautiful Sunday afternoon, for the moment, at least for me. I'm sitting in the air conditioning, so it's hot outside, but it's pretty good in here. I have I think it's Modelo Oscura, dark beer. We're celebrating. Chris is out there. She said she'll come in at some point, I think. She's doing dishes and dealing with cat stuff. Got 3,000 subscribers on YouTube yesterday. So here's to you, everybody. Thank you so much. Might sound like a small thing to some people, but it is a big thing to us, to me. And I figured I'd come just hang out for a bit. I got nothing else to do for the next little bit. We have, I mean, this might transition into a stream of something at some point. I have no idea. I have no expectations. I just finished taking a shower and cats are outside in the living room. Chris is finished with lunch. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go sit down and do like a celebratory stream. I need to fix that Lego box, don't I? I forgot the cat knocked it over. And I got a nice pimple on my forehead. That's called way too much cheese the other day. It was worth it. Um, and I know I have Monday Musings coming out tomorrow morning, episode 65, which is a 45-minute episode tomorrow. So hopefully everybody's got their boots on. I'm not gonna be streaming on Monday mornings right now because I'm doing we have Monday Musings at 7 a.m. and then on at 11 we have Mondays in Middle Earth. So I don't stream on Mondays in the mornings, but I am going to be streaming Monday nights very soon. Tabletop tonight. Got another night of prep as we get our characters created for the campaign. Tonight we're actually diving into Fantasy Grounds. So that's at 9 p.m. Central. We'll be meeting up with everybody around 8:30, 8:45, getting everything prepped, and then we'll be going live over on the Weave in the Void Twitch channel. So hopefully you'll tune in for that. Everything's been growing here on YouTube. I feel very, very grateful. Um, this has been a very interesting thing for me. I'm just gonna let's just talk history for a little bit. So, if you're just tuning in, as I said at the beginning of this is sort of a hangout. I might do a Q&A if people have questions and stuff, but otherwise, it's mostly just me saying thanks to everybody. It's also been a really weird journey for me because the first couple of years that this YouTube existed, I didn't do anything with it. I just had it. I put up some old retro games on it. Um, I played Betrayal at Krondor and Quest for Glory 4. I may have even done Quest for Glory 3. Um, and then I think I did some Diaries of an Indie Game Dev stuff from the Saga of Lucemia for the old Patreon. And that's it. Otherwise, the account just sat there. And then I was talking about this, I think, yesterday morning. No, I think it was from Monday Musings, the Monday Musings episode for tomorrow, which I recorded yesterday. I was talking about this in January of 2021, a couple of months before we officially kicked off the Weave in the Void. I had like 84 followers on YouTube. So from January 2021 till now, a year and a half basically, the channel has grown by 3,000 people, which is pretty awesome. And I know it might seem like small fish to some people who are like, oh, I got 10,000 followers in 6 months. Well, that's good for you. Everybody grows at a different pace. It's a milestone for me, and I feel like milestones should be celebrated. Plus, I've learned from being in Mexico for many years, any chance you get to celebrate something, you should take because life is short, and there's no reason not to celebrate the little things. Uh, the Mexican culture is very much full of, yeah, man, only 84. It was you and my brother and, you know, Chris and a handful of friends and stuff, but it was only 84, I believe. I bet if I went back, I could find it because I did a YouTube, excuse me, I did a Facebook promotion asking everybody, hey, I'm only like 15 away from getting to 100. I'd love to lock down my Renfail username. I need to get to 100 followers. Can everybody please follow? And within like a few days, I had the 100 that I needed. But I'm pretty sure it was January. It was either December of 2020 or January of 2021. Because Joey and I knew we were going to be working on the Weave in the Void stuff, so I wanted to get the username locked down finally for this social, and I was starting to stream more regularly. Not stream, but I was starting to do more content, like with the what the hell am I blanking? Oh, the Lotro Cooking in Real Life show, and I was doing like the Icewind Dale stuff, and I'd been streaming some Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. I mean, I was very just starting to dabble with YouTube. So, thank you very much, Liam. It is a nice number. It's a number, like I said, it was a number that I felt worthy of celebrating. Um, Especially since, like I said, in Mexico, as they say, everything is worth celebrating. That's why they have all sorts of like it's Day of the Firemen, it's Day of the Children, Day of the Presents, so on and so forth. So I figured today was going to be my day of saying thank you to everybody for getting me to 3,000 subs. But also, I want to say thanks to everyone who's been so generous because the last like week, as things have been growing and we've been doing live streams of EverQuest, P99, World of Warcraft Classic, Lotro, and etc. Um, I've got people who've been dropping super thanks on videos after the fact, and people who are doing in live and doing the stickers and super chats. Super thanks are the ones that are after. Those are new, but I've had some people drop who went and dropped back super thanks on like I have a video called for the Shire, I think. It's an old video from like March of 2021, and somebody went back and dropped a super thanks on that video, which is freaking awesome because that video is like a year plus, but it's an older Lotro video I have where it's just talking about what how amazing the Shire is as a starting area, and somebody went and dropped a super thanks on it, and I was like, that's really cool that YouTube introduced that feature that people can now go back to any video you have and just drop a thanks on it, and people have been doing that, which is cool. And then like this morning, Tilbin dropped $10 on my P99 stream. That kind of stuff is amazing. And in between, we've also had two new people join the other day. In one day, I had two new members join the YouTube Adventurers Guild here. Two new people over at Patreon. So it's really cool to see that kind of stuff. Thank you, Sparrow. What's up? Um, yeah, it's really cool to see that kind of stuff because I know it might only be small potatoes, but it is big stuff to me and Chris because we're not doing anything else right now. Like I'm literally just doing the Weave in the Void stuff for about 6 hours a day, and then YouTube for about 6 hours a day. And most days are 10 to 12 hours. But I'm getting to do all the things that I want to do. And at the rate this is going, as long as growth stays steady, theoretically, I might be able to do full time YouTube by the end of June or July. We're going to wait and see. I'm cautiously optimistic based on all the support I've seen over the last week since I started actively streaming regularly. We got our internet sorted out, you know, which was an adventure because we moved March 15th. We moved. I didn't have any air conditioning or internet for like the first 2 weeks we were here. Thankfully, March was not that bad heat wise. Then we got into April and we've dealt with power outages and the internet being crappy at nighttime. And then Chris making like, 8 phone calls over 3 weeks and chewing people out and complaining. And then the corporate office getting a hold of the local office and telling him, hey, uncap this dude's internet because we're getting way too many complaints. So now that the internet isn't working, knock on wood, I've been able to get back to the same schedule that I had in Mexico City. I don't know what I got on my shirt over here. I'm betting there was a receipt in the laundry that got disintegrated into little pieces of paper and it's showing up on my black shirt. Um, so since everything is back to normal and we're getting back into a routine, as of about a week ago, the YouTube financially, the growth it's been amazing and we've doubled our numbers and everything's looking good. So thank you to all of you who've been doing that, whether it's through Patreon or here. Um, the tabletop book's coming out in a few weeks now. That first source book. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. That's been a lot of work, but I feel like it's in a pretty good place. It can always be better, but that's what time brings to the table. The equation of time. Any potato is a nice potato, I will agree, because I love potatoes in any case. It's also eggs. Any eggs are good eggs. I like eggs. Any cheese is good cheese. So if you have a beer, I'll raise a beer with you and say cheers. Thanks, everybody. And I have lots of cat scratches like that. Little kittens are naughty. So, celebrating 3K subs, celebration of 3K subs, celebration of all of the new members in the Adventurers Guild. I don't know if I'm going to do multiple tiers on YouTube or not. I spent about an hour today and went through all of Nathan Napalm's tiers, and I kind of went, I mean, I could see a couple of those being potentially interesting, but I don't have any, like, he does behind the scenes stuff. I'm not really doing anything that could justify behind the scenes content on YouTube because I already do a ton of behind the scenes stuff on Patreon for the Weaving the Void. I mean, we do 3 posts per week that are locked behind a paywall. So I feel like all that stuff's already happening. And I don't know that I do anything interesting enough on YouTube to justify behind the scenes content. I am doing we just did yesterday, I think was the first, or the day before yesterday was the first of the member only videos, which right now I'm just doing the audio read throughs of my publications. I already had um, the Bloody Knuckles anthology chapters or short stories. I had read through those a while back, and I just went ahead and set those to private for now, and then I launched the first one to members because only a handful of people have seen those. So I launched the first one to members yesterday or the day before, and I'm going to do the rest of those throughout this month. And then as we get into June, I'm starting the Echoes of the Past read through for members. So those audio chapters will be coming out once a week starting in June. So that'll be the rest of the year on that because there's 33 chapters to get through coming out once a week. Um, I may do some, I don't know, we'll see. Because I'm going to start programming this summer for work on the Adventurer's Tale, which is our point and click game. But I like to reserve all that stuff for the Patreon, so I don't know how much of that I'll share here. I don't know. I feel like, some people have lots of tiers. That's cool. You look at Dr. Disrespect, he's only got one tier, and that's it. So I feel like maybe one tier might work for me. Um, I like the fact that now that YouTube unlocked the super thanks, people can just go back and figure out what they like. I want a beer, but it may make me sleepy tonight. Um, Chris said the same thing to me before I cracked open the beer, Sparrow. She's like, "You're gonna get sleepy before tabletop," and I said, "It's 5 o'clock. I've got 3.5 hours. If it makes me sleepy, I'll have time to take like an hour nap before tabletop fun tonight." Speaking of tabletop fun, I already went into Fantasy Grounds today. Deleted all the old characters, which was painful but necessary. And I already created a character from scratch because I was trying to play around with if I wanted to create a custom like Circle of the Mage wizard. Um, so we'll be doing that tonight because we have to, excuse me, we have to customize things. Your wife dislikes eggs. That's unfortunate. I love eggs. Amen to cheese. Yes, indeed. Raise your water. I'll take another sip to that. June 1st is really close. I just got another piece of artwork from Nathan today for the brownies. The brownies as a race. And without giving anything away, because I haven't shared it in the patrons although I will say the patrons section of Discord, I shared something this morning, I think. Um, Let me double check. Oh yeah, Joey had a screenshot. Well, before I get to that, um, Nathan got me some artwork for the brownies today, and I can say that the brownies are in the middle of an activity, and part of that activity involves a great white albino boar. Which, if you've watched any of our previous tabletop streams, you'll know what boar we're talking about. He literally sent me this image, and I went, can we make that boar white? And he goes, I absolutely can. And I sent it to my brother earlier today. He was like, dude, that's so badass. I was like, I thought you'd get a kick out of that. Matching up with your character's background for what is it? What is his character's name? I gotta look that up now. Something Thimblebud. I'm gonna look it up. But oh, Bim Twinklebud, and Bim Twinklebud is on the hunt for the great white albino boar known as Gizmo. So the racial art that I got for the brownies today from Nathan, we can actually see that boar. That'll be something we'll tease out in the patron section of Discord soon. Um, Liam says my family's been out of town this weekend, so I've been reading and catch up on recording videos. Oh, dude, that's awesome. 11 scheduled videos in the bank. The book I'm reading has a huge albino boar, The Dragon Waiting by John M. Ford. Interesting. So the screenshot that we shared today, if you haven't read the Patreon post for today's update, today was update 58. It's a very subtle, very, very subtle change, and it's part of the polish passes Joey has been doing to Marin's Rest. If you read the blog post from today's update, you'll know exactly what the change is. But I just shared the screenshot with no caption on it in the patron section of Discord, and so people will have to figure that out if they're not subscribed at that tier to figure out what that actually is. But it's pretty cool being able to see stuff. Well, say hi to everybody for dinner. Sparrow had a bounty on the kids. Tell Becca I like her. In progress. Turned so far. We'll continue working on it. Rawr. Let's just, I'll do my special sound effects for that. That wasn't a very good. I'm saving the best for when we're actually doing the campaign. That's when I'll bring out my zombie voice. I got to talk to Chris about her costume tonight because you were talking about what you're going to cosplay as, Sparrow. So I told I haven't talked to Chris yet, but I was talking to I think my brother today. I think Chris will end up doing her bandana because a bandana is a really easy way to do like a sailor slash deckhand slash ship captain in the making. And she's already got big ass earrings somewhere. Um, we do need to get her some like daggers or swords or something. I think for the cosplay. She just smiled a giant smile. Awesome. Well, just make sure that awesome smile doesn't turn into a toothy smile like the turned. Cut your fingernails. That would be the most poignant tip I could give. Don't get bitten and make sure you cut your fingernails. Mm. Anyway, life is good right now, everybody. It took us a little bit to get settled in, and there obviously are still quirks out here that I've just had to adjust to, and it's not perfect, but we're getting settled in. Chris had a very traumatic experience the other day. She feels a lot more love for our cats because of this. This is a slightly darker thing. I'll skim over the really bad details, but basically, we had to go to town on Wednesday. Maybe I shouldn't tell this one on stream. I'll keep this. Let's just say that the neighbors had an animal, had a small cat. We think it was from the previous litter. Um, I won't go into all the details, but it ended up on our roof. Ended up on our roof, and our neighbors, for whatever reason, I don't understand the reasoning behind why someone would do this, but they had the cat tied up with an actual collar and like a leash, like an actual rope, so that it could never escape. And there was a huge thunderstorm. Cat got out, got up on our roof. We were not here, and Chris had to go up, and the cat was no longer alive. It's a very disturbing tale. I'm keeping all the bad details out of the story because there's some really other stuff that was really not cool about the neighbors. But I can say the only positive out of this is Christina has now become a hugely more affectionate towards our kittens. After, because she was the one. I was busy. I had no idea what was going on. I was here streaming and other stuff, and she came into the room crying, and I was like, "What's going on?" And she had to go up to the roof and get the poor thing and have an argument with the neighbor. And I'm glad you were the one who ended up. I mean, it sucks that you had to see that, but if it would have been me, I would have gotten into a fight with the neighbor because I would have been yelling at them for being idiots for trying to think that they could put a leash on a cat. Anyway, as a result of that, Chris has become kitty mama now, and um, if you notice, if we show any videos recently, Chris, if you go watch Chris's TikTok the last few days, her TikTok is pure cat videos. That's all Chris has been doing on her TikTok is cat videos. And yes, Caleb, it was a very traumatic. That was Thursday. It was a very traumatic day Thursday. Um, Neither one of us were very in a very good place for like the rest of the day after that happened. But more so Chris because she was the one who had to go see it. But the result is that she's been very uh, loving, more loving towards the cat. She literally told me, "How did I become a cat person all of a sudden?" And I was like, "It's because that's the magic of cats. Once you have a cat, like they worm their way into your hearts, and you become a cat mom and a cat dad." So uh, I think the mama cat is inside. I think she was outside for like 4 or 5 days and wasn't sleeping here. She hasn't been sleeping here for about a week, and she's weaning the cats finally, so she's been getting kind of nasty with them. But she's been hanging out here all day yesterday and all day today. She's been back. I really wish I could take care of her and spay her, but it's just not going to happen. I can't control her goings and comings and goings. Um, but the two little ones they've slept in the room with us the last 2 nights now. But they get up but I usually get up and go to the bathroom around 3 or 4 in the morning, and they wake up with me and they go out, and I just leave them out after that. But the little girl the boy won't sleep with us. My chair is right here. Chris's chair is over there at the foot of this little bed back here. And the boy cat has been sleeping in the chair at the foot of the bed. And then so it's Luke and Leia has been sleeping with me in the bed. And the last 2 nights now. So they're getting better and more comfortable with us. The girl cat's been completely bonded for weeks now, but that boy cat Luke is still quite skittish. Caleb, if it would have been me, I would have had enemies for neighbors for the next however many years they're living here. Um, I was not a nice I was not a nice, happy person the rest of Thursday after Chris came into the office and told me what had just happened. She was very depressed and sad, and obviously so, but I was pissed. Like, there's if you've ever lived, and this is what I was saying, pros and cons of where people live and everything else. So I grew up in Missouri, um, Southwest Missouri, Springfield, Branson, that area, and it's known for being hillbillies and rednecks and etc. And I grew up with people who are just literally uneducated rednecks, uneducated hillbillies. And I try not to judge people. It's difficult sometimes. But what really frustrates me is when people have like a complete, absolute lack of common sense. And usually, and this is funny, I was talking to my brother about this when it happened. And so we grew up on a dairy farm, and my family does cattle ranching. So we've always done agriculture and land management and animal management and etc. I've worked as a vet many years ago. I've helped vets. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, worked for the vet clinic for years until she started doing her own thing a few years ago. And we were talking about like some of the craziness around people who bring in animals who have been injured or had something happen to them, and 9 times out of 10, the people who bring animals in who have had some sort of injury happen to them are, and this is going to sound really bad, so context is very important, but it's usually the poor people, the really uneducated poor people, who are the ones who have stupid stuff happen to their animals, usually because of a lack of foresight, lack of oversight, lack of education on animal management and caring for creatures. Um, it, it's very sad, but there is something to be said for, you know, it sucks to bring, money into the question, but it does always seem to be the you know, poor uneducated redneck types who can't handle taking care of animals and stupid stuff. Letting them get into trash and they just the one I see here all the time, which drives me nuts, is people who just they have dogs to keep things out of their yards. So it's like to keep iguanas out and to keep animals from coming in and killing the chickens and the so they're like guard dogs, but none of these people have actual relations with their dogs. The dogs live their entire lives on a chain or on a rope. So they're just chained to a tree or tied up on a rope. And it might be a 12-foot, 20-foot rope, but they live their entire life on a rope or a chain, and their only existence is to eat shit and bark at animals to keep them from coming into the yard and killing chickens and stuff. And I'm not a vegetarian. I eat meat, obviously. And it's funny to me because different animals and different cultures are considered pets. But yeah, dogs and cats, it's like for our cultures in North America, dogs and cats are traditionally companion animals, and they might be guard animals, but usually you treat them with some modicum of respect. And it drives me nuts when I see people who won't treat their animals with some modicum of decency. Um, yeah. Anyway, that got dark. I didn't mean to turn it dark, everybody. Let's get back to happier things. Let's talk about video games or something. Something. Oh. Um. What I was talking about though was just getting settled into this place and pros and cons and everything else. Those are the cons. The pros are I don't have a mortgage and the house is completely paid off. So that's nice. Which gets back to the celebration of 3,000 subs and people joining the membership channel and joining the Patreon and doing super thanks and stuff on videos. My objectives are pretty low by most people's standards. Like what I need to go full time on YouTube is pretty low, and we're already on a good trajectory to that. So theoretically, fingers crossed, we'll keep going up and up as we continue going forward. So cost of living is really cheap here, and it is very beautiful. The countryside is amazing. Um, we're actually looking at um, the next purchase is going to be a vehicle. So if you go back far enough into our Facebook feeds, we were out here in 2014 after Christina's surgery. We came out here for about 6 months when she was recovering and stayed with her family out here. And we did a bunch of stuff for our travel blog at the time. We did a bunch of YouTube videos and stuff. So there's a lot of Mayan ruins around here. It's farm country, so it's cattle country. So it's rolling hills, rivers, forests, and lots of Mayan ruins. So there's just tons of pyramids all over the place. It's not jungle per se. It's forest, but it is dense tropical forest. So it's not quite jungle, but it is tropical in nature. Um, and just the sunrises and sunsets are beautiful. We're right on the river, so the Usumacinta River, which goes all the way from Guatemala all the way to the all the way to the Gulf Coast and drops into the Gulf of Mexico. We're literally right on the river. It's about a 10-minute walk from the house, maybe a 15-minute walk from the house, and we're at the river. And it is a big ass river. Um, there was just a big national boat competition May 4th, 5th, and 6th that happened. So, um, now that we got the internet sorted out, as long as everything stays good with the internet, And if the power doesn't go out, that's the other thing. Is just the power going out could be a con. Other than that, though, the car is a thing. I haven't needed a vehicle in a very long time because we've lived in big cities for. I sold my truck in 2007 when I sold my construction company, and that's when I moved to Sofia, Bulgaria. And ever since then, I've lived in big capital cities that have subways and trains and taxis. And last 5 6 years we've got Uber and Lyft and all sorts of other forms of transportation, so you don't need a vehicle. But coming back out to the countryside, it's definitely one of those things where it's like, well, if we want to go do this, that, and the other, you have to have like we were talking the other day. It was like it'd be really nice to just go to the river for a day. Not this river, sorry. There's lots of other rivers like creeks and stuff where people go. I wouldn't want to go swimming in the river here. The river Usumacinta is huge, it's deep, and that water, it's like the Mississippi. I mean, that water moves. You do not want to go in that river. You will get sucked off and drown. It's not cool. But there's lots of riverways around here. Riverways, waterfalls, creeks, and streams. And it's great for summer outings because you can go and it's completely shaded off in the trees underneath the forest, and you can go off and just have a nice picnic and spend your whole day down in the creeks and rivers around here. But you can't get there if you don't have a car, so it's been like, well, shit, we should talk to your sister because her sister's got a car. It's like we should tell your sister, hey, you want to go have a picnic on the river? Let's go. But I think that'll be the next thing. We'll be actually getting a car for the first time in 15 years or something. I mean, it's been a long time since I've needed to have a vehicle of any type. Well, thank you, Caleb. I am a beautiful bearded dwarven princess. I'll raise a glass to that. I will have more of those. I did two or three last week or the week before. I hadn't done any in like a month and a half, I think, since we moved. Um, I had some people asking me, they wanted me to turn my channel into Nothing But Rings of Power, and it was like, nah, it's not. This channel has existed for like 4 years before Rings of Power started to come into the equation. So that was just one of the many things I cover on my channel was Rings of Power. Now, has that been lucrative? Yes, I have made a chunk of change on doing Rings of Power videos, and it has been part of the growth for my channel. So I will obviously continue to do that. And that was also the inspiration for the um, Mondays in Middle Earth series that I'm 5 episodes into. Tomorrow is the fifth episode. Um, that spun up because of the Rings of Power, because I said, hey, you know what? I actually haven't read The Lord of the Rings in 20 years. I should really read that again because the last time I read it, I didn't have the internet as a resource tool to help me, investigate some of these topics and discussions. So I will definitely be doing more Rings of Power. I've noticed that yesterday and today, I did a video last week about how all those like Nerd of the Rings and a couple of TikTokers who I actually follow, they all went to Oxford and London to take that big trip and got preview episodes and stuff. And I did a video about that, about how, hey, that was a press tour and great. They got to go have a really cool trip in England and they got to go walk around and touch and see and do things in the places where Tolkien went. And that experience is totally something I would have definitely taken advantage of if I were an influencer in that space, which I am not. So I do not have anything against those people for taking that trip when they were invited because I would have taken it as well. But the caveat to that is that because Chris and I were working as influencers in the travel space for so many years, I've been wined and dined. And so I know exactly what that was. And looking at that and seeing all the people coming out saying, oh my God, the footage was so amazing. It's like, maybe. But the grain of salt in all of this is that before you saw the footage and before you met with the showrunners, you were offered a free, all expenses paid trip to a really cool place to go walk in the footsteps of Tolkien, and you went and did all of the sightseeing and the touristy stuff, and you got fed really good food at a really nice place, and you got to stay at some really cool locations. And then after all of that, after you were lubricated and the foreplay was over with, you were then brought into the darkened theater where you were shown extremely curated content, extremely curated footage from the showrunners, content that was specifically curated to, absolve the fears of the public. So that being said, um, there what's very interesting to me is that like Nerdrotic and some other people, like I literally saw a thumbnail today from somebody's video which had like 60,000 views, and he had taken like Nerd of the Rings and a bunch of other the influencers, and he had posted their faces across the thumbnail, and he had put a stamp on the front and it just said fake, 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 and he was calling these legitimate super fans. By the way, these are legitimate super fans. Like Nerd of the Rings, he's a legitimate long time Lord of the Rings fan, and people are calling him a sellout because he took the tour. I don't think that's fair to say. I do think it's fair to take his commentary about the footage with a grain of salt because it was a press tour, and you're always going to write good things about a press tour because you don't want to piss off. You don't bite the hand that feeds. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Use whatever colloquialism you want to use there. If you've ever taken a press tour and you've ever done something like that, you're going to write good things about the experience because it was a fun experience. And so you're going to have positive things to say. You're not going to have negative things to say because you also don't want to get told no. You don't want to get skipped over the next time an opportunity like that comes up. So it's not that you're a sellout, it's just that you have to understand the context of those reviews. But I have seen a lot of videos that are way worse than mine. Like mine was I feel like my video was a very fair saying, "Hey, these guys all took this trip. They all have glowing reviews now. Grain of salt. I've been on lots of press tours. Here's my take on things, why you should maybe just take all this with that grain of salt in mind." But I've seen other people coming out and just like people are like, I've unsubbed from Nerd of the Rings because he's a fucking sellout. He's a shill. He's a shill now, and it's like, really? Like, I- mm. And the one with all the fake stamps on the forehead. People are taking it pretty seriously right now. Um, but it is what it is. And Caleb just said, don't get animals if you can't afford or have the time to really take care of them. It's not fair to them or anyone. I absolutely agree. Um, truth to that. Well, in my defense too, I did not. We showed up at this place, and the mama cat like started coming around the first day and was meowing outside. We didn't pay any attention to it. Second day, I actually saw her, and I was like, "Oh, here's some food." And then she started coming back, and I started feeding her more food. And by like the end of the first week, she was coming in the house and hanging out and being all lovey-dovey. And I was like, "Your belly's kind of, a little bit big." And it's like you might be getting ready to have babies. Well, then like the next day, I was like, oh no, you're actually you've been nursed on. Like her tits had been the fur around them had been swirled. So I was like, you're getting nursed. You have babies somewhere. And then we discovered that she had babies in the abandoned house in the woods behind us. And then like a week later, she brought her babies here. She brought the two that we have now, and she's an she's a street cat, and we know she's had multiple litters because the neighbor who had the accident with the one I just talked about, that was a cat from the previous litter. And also, the neighbors have told us that the people who lived here before, their daughter had a kitten from the previous litter. So the mother cat is a street cat who's just she's just that's her house, is that abandoned house. And she's been having multiple, who knows how many litters she's had at this point, at least two other litters that we know of. Um, and now she's having this one. And speaking of Chris's TikTok being all cat videos, I mean, there's people who are like being a little judgy and, how can you let a cat have babies when she's already got two? And how could you let her get pregnant? It's like, uh, not our cat. Like, we showed up and she was already pregnant. Like, I can't control her. And then there's people who are like, if you don't get her spayed, you're contributing to the the feral cat colonies. And I'm like, that's a fair point. However, I have a very small house. I don't have space to handle six. She has babies. She's big right now. She's gonna have 4 to 6 babies. It's like I don't have space for 4 to 6 babies. There's not. We're in a small town with 30,000 people, and people here don't have enough money to care for their existing dogs, let alone have additional cats. So getting homes for those little monsters is going to be next to impossible to have. There's only two vets in the whole town. Um, it's a small place here. It's not like a big city where you have all these, animal places where you can have people help to get your animals adopted and stuff like that. So if she has them here, we'll deal with it. But I would really prefer her to just have them outside and just if you show up and need food and water, I'm happy to help. But I was gonna maybe spay and neuter, but I'm not gonna worry about it. An old school nerd, maybe. I am old. I am 42, so I'm a Gen Xer, if that makes me old. I'm not a boomer though. Somebody called me a boomer the other day. Like, I'm not a fucking boomer. Maybe I shouldn't drop F-bombs. I forgot Sparrow's watching this with dinner with her kids. Sorry, Sparrow. Um, Not a boomer. I am a Gen Xer. I'm on the edge though, like because millennials technically started in the early 80s, and I was born in 1980. But I'm on the outside edge of millennial, so I don't really get cast as a millennial, Gen Xer baby. Not a boomer, but I am old, and I am old school in some ways. New to the channel, I live most of the year down in southeast Mexico. Um, I spend in a good year when there's no pandemic, I'll spend about 6, 8 months in Mexico, and then Chris and I go up and spend 4 to 6 months in the U.S. My family has a bunch of, they have a big cattle ranch operation in southwest Missouri in the Springfield Branson area. So we go up and spend time there. About half the year, maybe a third, 30% to 50% of the year we spend up in the U.S., and the other half of the year we spend down here in Mexico. Um, and my sister still lives in Colorado, so we do stuff in Colorado periodically because we all lived in Colorado for a good 12, 15 years, but then the family moved back to Missouri. I grew up in Missouri, then moved to Colorado, and then the family went back to Missouri while I was living abroad in Bulgaria. And then I did travel blogging. Since you're new here, Caleb, I did travel blogging for about 12 years, and I traveled all over. Lived in Bulgaria, lived in Colombia, and then made it to Mexico in 2010. And I've pretty much I met Chris here, and then I just kind of stayed because the plan was not to stay here. When I first got here, I was writing a guidebook for Cancun, and I was supposed to go south and just travel through Latin America and go all the way down through Central South America, come back up, and that was gonna be like a 2-year trip, and I was gonna do guidebooks for every major city as I wait. But then I met Chris, and I just stayed in Mexico. So that's how that works. Learned Spanish, got my permanent residency here, became a green card holder, and then bought property down here. So, although to be fair, it took a long time before we bought the property because we just bought our place in October of last year, and then we just moved here in March. So we just got here recently. And for those who want to know, you can go over to our old travel blog YouTube. It's Marginal Boundaries is what it's called. We're going to be documenting the home improvement process over there. I haven't uploaded any videos about that yet, but I'm recording a bunch of footage as we've. It's not quite a homesteading project, but it is definitely. We're taking a place that had zero technology and zero modernization, and we are slowly upgrading it over time. Like we had to do the rewiring when we got here. I had to get the whole house rewired because all that was here was wiring from like 20 years ago, and it was all 110, and it was only two breakers, and it was only wired up for lights and outlets, and I needed an air conditioner, and I needed circuit breakers for everything, so I had to have electricians come in and rewire everything. And because it's block construction, it's not like the old stuff where you could just also because it was all just crappy tiny wires for the lights and stuff, the existing conduits weren't big enough to pull 8 gauge through for the new wiring, so they had to run conduit on the outside, on the exterior of all the block walls and everything. So that was the first thing we had to do, and then we got the door installed because there's no doors in this home. It was all just open, so we had to get a door installed in the office, and then The windows are all crank windows with slats, and it's going to be a 2-year process to get this place modernized, and we'll be documenting that the whole time. Noble Shield says, "Now I feel old. I'm going to be 40 next month." Hey man, it happens. I will say that I feel pretty good for 40. I have my health, thankfully. I don't have any major issues other than chronic tendonitis in my left hand, which is mostly from all the years of squeezing sponges doing ceramic tile and natural stone for like 20 years. Having my construction company, and then just when I type a lot, it bothers me, and when I game a lot, um, if I'm doing stuff with like keyboards. But other than that, I don't have any knee or back issues. I'm a little overweight. Well, I say little, but I've got I got some pudge. You don't see it most of the time 'cause I'm sitting down, but I'm about 30 pounds, 30, 40 pounds overweight. It's mostly all spare tire, old man gut. But other than that, I'm pretty good. But I'm not a spring chicken anymore. But it's all good. The good thing is I have my health and I get to do all the stuff I love, which is more than some people can say. I don't read nearly as much as I need to, though. Ah, hola, Knock. Knock de Tara. ¿Estoy pronunciando esta bien o no? Knoak es un, es un nombre que nunca vi. 40 in August. You know the sadness. Yes. I don't feel too much different at 42 than I did at 40. The only difference is that, my hair is going, obviously, it's definitely thin on the top, and I got a bald spot starting in the back. It is what it is. I made it to 40. I had long. If you've watched any of my older YouTube videos, I kept my hair long my whole life. I cut it off a couple of times, but like especially with my older YouTube videos from like 2 years ago, I cut all my hair off in September of 2020, and that's when I started growing the beard. Cut the hair and let the beard grow. Um, so that's the only thing I will complain about is that I started losing my hair at in my late 30s, and I was like, oh man. I was watching like the new Star Trek promos for Strange New World. Anson Mount is a handsome man, and he has a really amazing head of hair and a beard. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm totally jealous of men who have a full head of hair and a good beard because I do not. I have a decent beard. You can't see a lot of the irregularities in it because it's from a distance, but it's not a perfect beard. I can't grow it on the sides here. It's thicker on this side than it is on this side. I don't know if you can see that. It's like kind of thin right there, a little thicker here. You know, I actually trim that part, which is growing out. You see right there, that little tuft that hasn't been cut in about a month, maybe 6 weeks. So that actually has to get trimmed off that little bit right there to make it kind of match the other side. So the illusion is what you see, everybody. It's lighting, smoke and mirrors, the camera angle and the lighting. Don't be deceived. Thanks for making me feel young, says Caleb. We were joking on it too, because we're kicking up our World of Warcraft stream group um, on the 2nd of June, and most of us in that group are over 40, except for my brother, who's only 29. He's not quite 30. My younger brother, and Nathan was like, "Is this going to be the boomer Warcraft group?" And it was like, "Yeah." And then my brother was like, "Hey, wait, I'm not even 30 yet." And it was like, "Well, that's fair enough. We got the one Lobie in the group." But yeah, the rest of us are over 40, and then there's just four of us who are over 40, and then there's one guy who's not quite 30 yet. So nice, heathen. Well, I will say, I'm gonna raise my glass to you, sir, and say, here's to a full head of hair at 51, because that's pretty awesome. Um, because that's the one. It's the only thing I will complain about is I would love to continue to have long hair. And I told Chris the other day, I'm not gonna lie, there was a moment when I cut it all off, it was a relief because I'd had long hair for so many years, and I was just kind of tired of it. And I've cut it off a couple of times in the past, and each time it's usually about 7 years. I'll go like 7, 8 years, grow it really long, cut it off, and then I'll keep it cut for a couple years, grow it out again. I've done that two, 3 times in my life. Um, 3 times I think. Cut it off 3 times. Cut it off when I was like 20. Man, I gotta think about that for a minute. Like 2021, I cut it off, and then I cut it off again. Maybe it's only been twice. Only twice. 2021, I cut it off, and then 2010, I cut it off again, and then yeah, I've only done it twice, and then well, I guess third time was when I cut it off a year and a half ago. But I'm also getting old enough now where I'm like, I kind of don't give a fuck, and the beard's growing out and everything else, and I'm like, I ought to just let it grow again. But Chris is like, oh no, you should keep it short, and so I've been keeping it short because she actually likes it short right now. Skull. But I'll tell you what, probably the next year or two, I might just grow it all out again. Um, I haven't cut it in I don't know 4 months now. The beard though, I don't know if I mentioned that on this when we were talking earlier, but I think I mentioned it tomorrow's episode of Monday Musings that goes out at 7 a.m. Um, I've been really tempted to cut the beard recently, but I've kind of have to keep it now because the bearded dwarven princess videos are doing really well on YouTube. So I kind of have to keep that going just for the persona for the moment. But I'll tell you why I debated cutting it off recently. It's gotten so long now. It's a year and a half in where when I'm doing yard work, I'm having to like I told Chris it's like I'm just gonna have to put it up in a like a bun to do yard work because it's so long now that I was trying to do like I was shoveling, and every time I was bringing the shovel down, my gloved hand would catch like strands of the beard and pull it like that, and it was like that freaking hurts. So there was a debate, and also when I go out of the air conditioning, it is so hot and humid here that it's not very comfortable to have a beard in the humidity here. But it's also very funny because everyone in this town, if you've ever been to Mexico, Mexicans are not quiet about when they see something that's different, they'll say something. I get lots of Santa Claus comments. Like people be driving their car down and they'll yell, "Oye, Santa!" And I've just learned like, "No hay regalos para ti, niño. Estoy en vacaciones. Santa no está trabajando por el momento." I get lots of the Santa comments, and then you'll hear people who just be. I've had probably a dozen people now in the last month. Like it's a small town and street crossings. There's no stoplights or stop signs or anything, and they'll just stop their car and they'll be like, "Ay, Dios mío, esta barba," and then they'll keep driving. Or, "Ay, qué pasa con este barbudo?" It's very funny. I'm the only person here who has a beard, and I'm also like I'm not the only gringo here, but I'm one of the only white people who's in this town. There is a power station, a power plant, a water power plant, maybe 30 minutes away, and there's quite a few people who are from Canada and the United States who work there. Um, but most of the people who come through this town are just travelers because there's a bus station here. So I don't think there's any foreigners who live here other than me, and I'm very recognizable because of the beard. Um, and kids stare. It's quite amusing. I did braid it the other day. First time. Chris braided it the other day. I did a stream with it in a braid. It was the first time I had done it. Longbeard dwarves, probably heathen. I may be part Longbeard dwarf. I don't know that I would beat it, but we put it in a braid the other night. So Chris wants to do braids again, so I think I'll let her braid it soon. But yeah, the beard started off as Chris just told me to grow it out for a few months, and then it got longer, and she was like, "Oh, it looks like Gandalf. You should just keep growing it out." And then I was like, "Okay." And then now it's become a thing of its own, and I can't get rid of it for like the next, at least for the next 6 months. I have to keep it. I have to keep it until I'm done covering the Ring of Power. And then once I'm done with my Ring of Power videos and that fad is over, I should be able to be. I should be safe to perhaps trim it or cut it off because I don't mind, having like 6 weeks of growth. Um, but I don't know that I want this for the rest of my life. It was a cool experiment for a couple of years, but I'm also kind of like curious, like what's my terminal length? Because every man has a different terminal length of their beard. Some guys it goes all the way down to their knees. Other guys it stops at their belly button. Mine has continued to grow, so I haven't hit terminal growth yet. So it's like, how long is this thing gonna get before it stops? Um, we shall see. All right. Check Discord real quick. All right, nice. For those of you who like Discord and you haven't already done so, you can join. Links are down below. Our gaming community and beyond. Let's see. We're getting about an hour in. Tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Sorry, that's a lie. 9 p.m. Central. I don't know why I said Eastern. 9 p.m. Central tonight, we are meeting for the next session of prep for the campaign, for the tabletop campaign. So session 4 is tonight. So it's myself, Simmerg, the Nathan Napalm, Bounty Code Sparrow, my wife, my brother. We are preparing for the campaign for the Weave in the Void, which is that world map behind me. The tabletop campaign kicks off June 5th. The source book comes out on June 1st. So we're in the middle of, they've been creating characters for the last 3 weeks, doing their storylines and going through the lore and everything else. And tonight we're actually diving into Fantasy Grounds and creating their characters for the first time, or at least starting character creation, because it's 5th edition setting, but we're having to, there's a lot of unique stuff to our campaign, so we're having to tweak the existing classes and races a little bit to fit our setting. So we're going to be starting that tonight. So those of you who enjoy 5th edition tabletop and D&D, you can tune in at twitch.tv/Weave in the Void. If you want to know more about that project, you can go over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Wandering Hermits. The Wandering Hermits being myself, my brother, and Chris, my wife. We're also got Nathan Napalm helping out with artwork for character art, and Bounty Code and Sparrow's daughter, Becca, is doing some creatures and monsters for us. There's also a point-and-click game like King's Quest, for those of you who enjoy the old school point and click games. You can download the demo for free right now. That game comes out later this year. And there is a book series, since I'm a writer. Chapters come out twice a month. Chapter 19 is just around the corner this upcoming Thursday. All that stuff's over at the Patreon page. No streams tomorrow, though, everybody. I don't stream on Monday mornings anyway. I think I'm going to stream tomorrow night. I haven't streamed at nights on Mondays for a while now, but now that we've settled into the house, I think, and we've got the internet sorted out, I think I'm getting back to Monday night streams. So stick around for that. But tomorrow morning, every for those of you who are new, every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Central, Monday Musings goes live, which is my personal blog space, which is a lot like this. I just sit and talk about life instead of, it's not curated content. It's not the 10 to 15 minute videos. It's like 30 to 45 minute segments. Episode 65 goes live tomorrow. And then at 11 a.m. tomorrow, Mondays in Middle Earth is up. We're in part 5 of the Fellowship of the Ring read through. We're covering chapters 3 and 4 in book 2 of the Fellowship. So The Ring Goes South and Journey in the Dark, or Journey Through the Dark, I think is the name of that chapter. It's when they leave from Rivendell all the way up to when they reach Balin's tomb. So that episode's coming out tomorrow at 11. Next week, I will do another Rings of Power video at some point, but I want to have a few days to look at what other people are covering so I can do something a little bit different, because I don't just want to do the same content that everyone else does. This week I will be playing. I gotta think about that for a minute. I'll definitely be playing I'll be playing Lord of the Rings Online this week for one of my morning sessions, working my lore master through Rohan. I'll be doing another Dragon Age Origins session. I've got a couple of Xbox games I want to sink my teeth into, so I'll probably be starting one of those this week. This is the last week of sort of freedom. Um, Friday night is obviously our Project 1999 Green Servers session with myself, Nathan Napalm, Bounty Code, Sparrow, Kel, and Vendini. It'll be session 3 this Friday at 5:30 p.m. Central if you want to tune into that. But this will be the last free week in the sense that next week the TLP server drops for EverQuest on May 25th. Yellowknack is the name of the server that we're going to with our gaming community, and we will be going hog wild for the first few days. So I know Kel took off the 26th, 27th, and 30th, so I'll be playing with him 25th, 26th, 28th, 28th, and 30th. The only day we won't be playing will be the 27th when we do P99 on Friday night, but otherwise we're playing EverQuest Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Then the second, June 2nd, we're starting our World of Warcraft Classic streaming as we continue our march towards, or as we begin our march towards the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. My brother and I are streaming our leveling sessions very early in the morning. So we're doing those from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Central Time. We did a Friday session and a Saturday session last couple of days. We're going to do another session tomorrow morning and probably every day next week, I think. At least most of the weekdays we're going to be getting up about 4 a.m. and doing a stream from 4 to 6. And then I traditionally will stream something in the mornings as well, Lotro, so on and so forth. But I should be streaming most days most evenings this week as well. Um, Definitely a lot of Lotro this week because I want to get my lore master through Rohan and into Helm's Deep. Anything else I need to think of? Probably not. I would say if you are new here, make sure to check out all the playlists. I do a lot of stuff here on YouTube. Um, I've sort of started to see about going full time between game dev and YouTube. We're going to see how that pans out over the next couple of months, sort of an experiment. So I'm doing one or two streams a day and one or two videos every single day. So there's quite a bit of content that comes out on this YouTube channel. So make sure to sink your teeth into all that stuff. Thanks again to everyone for getting me to 3,000 subscribers, and for all of you, we've had, like I said at the beginning of the stream, we've had like a couple of new Patreon subscribers. We got a couple of new members to the Adventurers Guild here on YouTube. We've had people going back and dropping super thanks on old videos, which is awesome. I had like a $10 um, super chat today during the live stream this morning when we were playing P99. So thanks to all of you who have been supporting the channel financially, following along with all the things we do. I appreciate it. I am going to wrap up, everybody. It's 6 o'clock now. Um, Hopefully I've given you all a little bit of entertainment for the evening. But I'm going to go take a bit of a break. And we will be back around 9 p.m. Central Time tonight over on twitch.tv/Weaving the Void to stream our tabletop adventures. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks for those of you who hung out today in chat. We had Liam's Lyceum was here earlier on. Sparrow was here. Caleb, Noble Shield, Inusa, Joseph was here. Knoak was here. Heathen. Thanks so much, everybody. Probably see you at some point in the near future if you stick around the channel, or if you join on Discord, or if you join as a member and all that good stuff. Don't forget, you can also check out my publications over at Amazon. Links are down below. Check out the Patreon. Have a good rest of your evening, everybody. Hopefully we'll see some of you tonight for the live stream for tabletop if you like D&D stuff.